was that those books like Spiritual Pillar for Dummies. It would be something along the lines of like, you are engaging in practices that are doing things that would be like regulating your nervous system, dropping you down into like a alpha brainwave state so that you can get the downloads. And more importantly, recognizing when that inner voice inside of you is your intuition pulling you somewhere, opposed to like a trauma pulling you somewhere, and then guiding, going with it. That's like a definitely a sign of someone that has like a very intact spiritual pillar. When I was really beginning to like unlock mine, especially with business stuff, it was where it was the most obvious, because it was like decisions that made no logical sense, seemingly like lacked emotion, but I knew that's what I had to do. And then I acted upon it, and I had like my first 5-digit month in business within a couple of weeks of that, and another one. And it didn't make any sense, but there it was happening. And so, yeah, that would probably be in a nutshell, the 5 pillars. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And I, on the money and the spiritual side, I think those are very linked as well. And I wanted to bring it back to the money at first. And I also wanted to ask, is there a link that you have in the course around the spirituality side of money, the energetics of money, kind of how before we hit record, I told you about some money blocks that I had before. And is that something that you go over? Can you tell us a little bit more about the money side of things and that?
Totally. So one of the things that we've been, at least I've been doing this, I haven't brought this forward to the whole team yet, but I've been like drawing out how they affect each other. And so there's like one web of like negative effects, and then there's another web of positive effects. And so right now, there's so many like life coaches that they teach pretty much everything except the financial pillar. And if your financial pillar is not in a good state, good luck with your emotional pillar. Like,
Yeah.
All these like spiritual coaches and all that. It's like, you can be the most like grounded, centered person, but if you can't pay rent or buy food at the end of the month, you're going into high beta brainwave. And if you're going into high beta brainwave, your emotional pillar, your mental pillar, and your spiritual pillar are out of whack. You can't tune into God because you're in a high beta brainwave. You're in an animalistic fight or flight protective state. Mm-hmm. And so I can certainly talk about the connection between the spiritual and the financial. It is actually quite similar and quite simple. You are correct. Mm-hmm. But I really want to bring a point of saying that, like, when the financial people, there's this like unfortunate, almost like, money is evil going around a lot in the spiritual community. Yeah. And it's not, it's just a tool, right? It always has been. It always will be. It's just a tool. And we can use, we can use the pitchfork to like till the land, or we can use it to attack our fellow man. And it's just a tool. Mm-hmm. And when the financial pillar is really in a bad position, it affects the emotional pillar. Then the emotional pillar affects the mental and the physical pillar. Mm-hmm. And then, you don't have a house or an energy or a physical body for the spiritual pillar to come through. So mm-hmm. It is quite important. And there's obviously connections directly made between the root chakra and money. And it's the safety, it's the base, it's the roots. So in terms of the spiritual financial connection, it's quite simple because it is energy. And it is, it's like if you engage in proper spiritual, it's so cool, all the connections. Like, let's say you engage in proper spiritual form, proper spiritual practice. Let's say you're meditating daily, you're doing, whatever it is that you need to be doing. More than I know what you need to be doing. God tells you, hey, I really need to be doing this thing. And then if you go and you do that, you're going to start attracting people in your life. You're going to start attracting opportunities in your life. You're going to start like getting things that you need. Usually, like, right when you need them, but you
Mm.
always get them. God always pulls through when you're there.
Yeah.
And then it's the same thing with money. And we have this kind of joke. I have this joke. No one else laughs at it, but with our coaching, like right now, especially in Western societies, we've fractaled all of these different arenas. And so it's like, if you want to lose weight and you go to a personal trainer, well, if you're really stressed out, you got a whole bunch of cortisol in your body. You can eat the best food, you can exercise, drink enough water, sleep. You're stressing out. The cortisol is going to cause your body to retain everything. So you need to go to a therapist. And say you're depressed, you go to a therapist, but you're eating terrible food, you're not sleeping properly, and you're not exercising, you got to go to a personal trainer. And so we've fractaled all of these different arenas, and we've got all these different professionals and specialties, and it's amazing the depth of the knowledge that they've got, but there's massive holes in their methods for helping the human. And that's one of the main driving forces behind the five pillars of human potential in our program. And so, with regards to money, the joke that we make is like, if you want to make $10,000 in your business, for an example, if you're an entrepreneur, the first question that we ask is, how's the relationship with your father? And then the entrepreneurs will be like, whoa, like, what do you mean? I need to learn sales, or like, I need to like get more leads. And we're like, sure, but you're just going to blow it anyways. Like, it doesn't even matter, because we need to address the wound that you have around your own self-worth and value. And so anyways, yeah, a lot of the times people will come to me for entrepreneurial help, and over our whatever it is, 12 or 14 week program, it's usually like 8 to 9 weeks of psychology that we actually talk about. And then their businesses just skyrocket afterwards.
Wow. Oh, that's incredible. I'm so excited. I have so many questions more. Thank you for talking about the link between the spiritual and the money. I think I really, I'm thinking about all of the links between all of them, and how interesting that is. And I definitely want to talk more about this. What would you say is the pillar or you can name a few, but what would you say is the number one pillar that you think that you've struggled with the most? And if you had any breakthroughs around any of these, I'm sure you have, but anything you want to talk about there?
Yeah. So for me, it's pretty obvious, but I've got two. And for me, it's emotional pillar, definitely struggled with the most. And then shortly after that is financial pillar. I feel that my mental and my physical pillar have always been quite intact, especially my mental pillar. And then I've always had a really good connection with God, with the universe. Not always, sorry, I shouldn't say always. Once I opened my eyes, it was very good and has stayed very good since then. I've had major breakthroughs with them. In terms of financial pillar, I believe in it. It's starting to look like there's actually scientific evidence to back these things up. But so in like the Bible, for example, it says like the curses of your fathers and your forefathers and the fathers before them for 4 generations. And now we're starting to find out that psychological traumas can actually get passed down in our genes. So if someone, say a woman goes through a horrific trauma and then she has a daughter, well, that daughter might be certain ways around certain types of people, and that can actually get passed down. And as we definitely are seeing the financial generational curse is definitely something that happens. And so I don't come from a lot of money. I come from an absolutely amazing, blessed home. Both my parents were around. They loved me. They did a phenomenal job. In hindsight, couldn't see that when I was in my teenagers, like no one can. but I would just start with like the financial pillar. However, given the like decisions that I've made and the actions that I've took and the career path that I chose, I made a lot of mistakes the first like 8 years in my career. Um, like I didn't even know about business taxes, which is one of the like what do we want to do at Human Potential Academy? We want to teach kids about taxes and how to meditate, you know?
Yeah.
But so the financial pillar was a big one for me, but I'm certainly feeling very geared up and ready to receive all of the blessings that are on their way, that are already happening and are on their way. And then the emotional pillar for me, I had a really interesting set of variables, which is that I was an only child, and I grew up like 6 kilometers outside of my town of 3,000 people. So 3,000 people, and I grew up 6 kilometers outside of it, like didn't have internet for a long time. And I was out there. And so I had, on one hand, it was amazing because I had imagination. I had parents that loved me. You know, I got secure attachment style, and the imagination has helped me become like a visionary within business and all these amazing things. But then on the other hand, I didn't develop the emotional quotient that comes with living and growing up with siblings, and then also growing up in the town that I was in. I was always kind of like an outsider. Like there was kind of like 3 cliques in my small town. There was like the band kids and the math kids, and there was the sports kids, and then there was the like party on the weekend kids. And I did all 3 of those quite well, which was cool because I was like kind of friends with everybody, but like I wasn't like on the in crowd with everybody. And so I kind of like didn't really have my tribe. I didn't really have the people that I fit in with. And that was for the first, 18 years of my life. And then I moved to the city. And so I just had like a really interesting kind of experience growing up with the lack of certain emotional things that I had to, I guess, even deal with and grow through that come along with siblings. And then as a result, like, I would bounce around and like have different friend groups, but for a short amount of time. And then, we wouldn't vibe or whatever. And I'd move on, and I'd move on, and I'd move on. And I was able to develop it because of starting my career in door-to-door sales, where I was, talking to 100 people a day, every day for 3-4 years. But where it really got developed for me was when I was promoted into the manager position, which was actually quite early in my career. And then I had to train people. And I was really like getting more involved in like the leadership aspect of things. And recently, actually, I would say I've gone through like the probably most like transformative, probably like 10, 11 weeks of my entire life, especially in the emotional pillar. And this is thanks to a business retreat I went to in Mexico, which honestly, if I spoke about now, it would be the entirety of our conversation. Shout out Black Sheep Masterminds. Absolutely shout out Black Sheep Masterminds, Alexander Eddy. And then after that, because of my team at Human Potential Academy. So Brian Carew, Baymir Flores, Selena Shue, Al Honeycutt, Spencer DeVolin. We went through a lot, and I just am really grateful for them, as well as like my ability to actually hear what my team is saying to me and then really sit with it. And it feels like now actually so many people, I have so many people to credit for this. A handful of my students, Kelly, Kylie, Alexander, one of the owners of Black Sheep, Zoe, Grace, so many people have helped me to like bring my message from my heart instead of from my head. And so many people for years have been like telling me this, right? And you like people telling you things, but you're like, yeah, like I get it, but they're not really helping me to do it. And that's a really, I think, an impossible thing to actually help people to do. We'll see. Mm-hmm. But how I've been able to shift in these past couple of weeks is when we all have something to say, And I would literally be looking up as if to